Hello again, everyone. Okay, as you can see in my last video, I put the camshaft in my engine here, and now it's time to start doing the freeze plugs. And as I mentioned in my last video, I like to do the cam before the freeze plugs because if you were to have a problem with your cam bearings, you have to pull your rear freeze plug and then pull your bearings. So I always like to put the cam in first, and also that way with the rear plug, you also know how far to go, so that whenever you're installing your cam, you don't get to the very end and find that your freeze plug is in too deep and you can't install the cam the whole way. But just a little thing to note here. This camshaft has this collar on the front of it. It has a large hole for this dowel pin and a small roll pin that fits in a hole right under there. So what I'm going to do is I've actually tapped this cam forward a little bit with the handle of a screwdriver and kind of thrusted it forward so that whenever we put our retainer plate on, we'll know exactly where our cam will be so that we can install our rear freeze plug. So now there's a couple little things to note on this. On the front retainer plate, you have your two oil galleys in the front here, and you also have these two plugs. You have the larger one and you have the smaller one. Now the smaller one, as you can see, is actually an orifice. See that tiny little hole in there? That's actually an orifice. So when you're cleaning this up, you want to make sure that orifice is free. And it's actually impossible to get these mixed up because there's a larger plug is a larger diameter and the smaller plug, So what we're going to do, let's put this on. I'm actually going to smear a little bit of this assembly lube in here. Just a little bit. Okay, now we're going to fit our plate on. And now the plugs, what I like to use is just a little bit of this this Permatex here, aviation forma gasket. I actually spilled a little on the cap, and as you can see, it doesn't really dry, so it's something good to use on threads, I suppose. It works for me. Now, you don't want to use a whole lot of this either because this is directly in the oil galleys and you don't want to get this in your oil. So just take it out. We're just going to put a tiny little bit on there. And we're actually going to stay back from the front of the threads. We're actually going to go like up in there. I'm just going to work that in a little bit. And that's plenty. Okay. You also want to have your threads cleaned before you do this so the sealant, oh, that was the wrong hole, so that the sealant can work properly. Now I'm sure that there's a torque spec on these. I don't know it right now, but I mean for what we're doing, I'm just going to snug these up and then I'll come back and retorque it later. But for what we're doing, we don't need it to be exact right now. Just a little bit more of this on there. So whenever we tighten this thrust plate, it'll actually thrust our cam back a little bit. Now the larger one is 13/16, and the smaller one I believe is 3/4. Like I said, we're just going to snug these up a little. Don't have to be real tight. You want to work evenly so that you don't crack your plate. Okay, so that's good and snug now. Now we know exactly where our cam is going to be. So now I'm going to move you guys to the rear of the engine. Going for a little ride. Okay. Bear with me a second. Okay, that's a decent view, I suppose. Okay, now there's another thing to note on the rear of this engine. Forgot to mention it in my video tearing the block down. But there's actually another orifice in this engine. And you'll have to remove this if you take it to the machine shop. If you're doing this yourself, you know, if you're not having them do it. But this square head plug here, I'm trying to show you the hole. There, see that little hole in the front? This is also an orifice, and it goes right in there. So what we're going to do is put a little bit of our sealant on there. Just a little bit again, not a whole lot, because this is in our oil system. Just a little bit. Just enough to kind of seal it a little bit. How we're going to have to do this is put it down in there. Darn it. Okay, still good. Now the square head on this is neither a 1/4 inch or 3/8. I don't have the tool to remove this, so what I'm just using is a large screwdriver. I believe this was a 3/8 perhaps, and I've actually just filed the ends down so it fits in there. It seems to snug it up alright. You do want to get this as tight as you can because you don't need this backing out, because you'll actually lose oil pressure if it comes out. Okay. Now we'll just go ahead and do our other plug here. This is just a regular old pipe plug here. They've sent me a new one in the kit, and I'll actually show you the kit here. This is the kit I'm using. Elgin, I think is how you say that. There's a part number. And everything's made in USA. All the freeze plugs and the pipe plugs and everything. I think I actually bought the cam bearings in that set of freeze plugs on eBay, I think. And I think it was fairly cheap. I don't even think it was $50. What I'll do is just put a little bit more on this plug here. Again, staying away from the front threads. Okay, let me get my Allen wrenches. So 5/16. If I remember correctly, this one was in there pretty tight too. That's good. And I also suggest that whenever you remove your freeze plugs, you hang on to them. Because in the kit, there are actually two freeze plugs that are very similar. And I actually used the one in the kit that my old one to match up the one that in the kit. They're the same size. So now we're going to install this one here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to coat it with RTV, just a little bit. I'm not really sure if this helps or not, but it gives me a little extra peace of mind. Just want a thin coat of it. And this is in the oil system, so again, stay back closer to the back of the plug as you can stay. Just smear it around. Okay, that should be good there. Set it right in there. Okay, now you'll need something to drive it in with. This will be very similar as to how we removed them. A little bit different, but still fairly similar. I'm just going to use our dead blow. And I like to use something that fits inside just a little bit. It doesn't need to be, it can't be real tight because this plug will actually squeeze in a little as you're driving it. So it can't fit super tight. This is going to be a little awkward. Pretty much just drive it in until it's right below the little bevel. Okay, that's pretty good. And now we're going to do the camshaft one. Again, just a little bit of RTV around the edge. This one looks like I can just smack it in flat and then drive it in the rest of the way with something large. Just straighten that one up. Actually, what I'll probably do is just use one of our old cam bearings. Don't need them anyways. Seems to fit. Okay. ones in. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Just wanted to show you those ones. There's a, with that plug and everything, the orifice plug. And pretty much just these ones on the side of the block here, they're pretty much done in the same manner. Just get the little, I'm going to move you again. All you have to do is get below this little bevel. I'll show you real quick here. Okay, where are we at? Yeah, see this small bevel here? All you do is just get right below it with the edge of the plug and don't drive it in any farther, because you don't want to knock it through. But that's the basics. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of these side ones in, and this engine will be ready to go back on the stand. Alright, thank you for watching.